Okay, now we're going to be looking at graphs of geometric growth and decay. So these are geometric sequences. When we plot the terms of the recursion relation to this, it forms a non-linear graph. So just to compare this, when we were dealing with linear graphs, we got linear or arithmetic sequences or linear sequences, we got a linear graph. When you're dealing with geometric sequences, you're going to get a non-linear graph. Now, we've got a whole bunch of stuff here, but I really just want to come down here and talk about the two main ones that we're going to see. We're mainly going to see diverging and converging. I will talk through these ones as well, but we're going to see less of them. Mainly, when your r is greater than 1, so in this case, when r is 3, what you're going to get is something that diverges like this. Contrast, when you have a number like 1/3, so this is when we're between 0 and 1. So when you're between 0 and 1, so if you think of all the numbers between 0 and 1, you've got like a half, 1/3. What you're going to end up with is something that converges, and that means it's going to approach 0, but never going to get to 0. So to show you this, if I take 2 and I hit enter, and then I times it by 1/3, I'm going to get that, then that, then that, but I'm actually never going to hit 0. I'm just going to get closer and closer to 0. Those are the two main ones that you're going to come across, so diverging and converging. Could you come across something that looks like this? Perhaps. Let's now talk about diverging zigzagging and converging zigzagging. This is what happens when your r value is negative. So let's take this first one to begin with. So this first one, it says we're starting at 2. So let's come to our as here, and we'll start at 2. And then I'm going to times it by -3. That means my next number is -6. That's -6. Then if I hit enter again, I'm going to get positive 18. Now, why did I go from a negative to a positive? Well, it's because I went negative times a negative. So it's now a positive. If I now hit enter again on my CAS, I go back to a negative, and that's because I'm going 18 times -3, because I'm taking this positive number and I'm timesing it by a negative, so I'm going back to a negative. And sure enough, if I was to hit enter again, I'm going to go back to a positive again, because I'm going to get a positive times a positive. So that's what's happening there. Does that come up often? Not really. The main ones that you've really got to concern yourself are those ones. That could come up. And of course, this is just the same thing now, but now we're just between, we're between 0 and 1, but now it's negative. So it's not actually between 0 and 1, it would be between -1 and 0. But again, you're less likely to see something like that. That's not to say it couldn't come up, but I'm pretty sure in your textbook it doesn't. Pretty sure in your textbook it just shows you these types of graphs here, but you could technically get something diverging and zigzagging, just not very often, and you're probably not ever going to see it, but you could. I don't want you to come back here and say, hey, you said this is never going to come up. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's not likely. All right, let's pause here.